I've had phones with fingerprint readers before, but I almost never use that feature. But lately I find I'm starting to.
Yes, by the end of this year, we're expecting 80% of people with a smartphone with a fingerprint reader will be using it on an active basis. So that's about 40% of the base, a significant increase on prior years. And in fact, 3.5 years ago, there are almost no phones with fingerprint readers. So the adoption of this has been really, really rapid.
Are people using it only once or twice a day?
They're using it every time they unlock their phones, which is almost every time they look at their phones. So we've assumed at least 30 times per day. And based on that number and the billion-plus phones with a fingerprint reader, aggregate usage globally will be over 10 trillion times.
That's a lot of fingerprints. Why now? What's the tipping point in 2017?
The differences are ubiquity, it's coming into even low-end phones, and also it is just useful. It's useful for the users of phones and also for business. So it makes it secure, and also what it does is it makes the process of unlocking phones rapid. We don't want to be entering passwords every time we are looking at our phones.
It certainly is fast, and it's a great password replacement. What else can it do?
Right now, a lot of it is just opening the phone, but it's going to unlock a lot more, particularly around access to sensitive data, such as banking apps, or it could be work email. So it's providing quick access to that without having to enter a hard password. And a massive opportunity is around authenticating transactions. So rather than, let's say, if you are trying to buy something via your phone, you have to enter in all your details, you apply your fingerprint, and in one moment, your transaction is authenticated.
Now, maybe just go into detail for a second. How does a fingerprint reader actually work?
It's really simple. So what you've got on your fingerprint reader is a sensor which takes an image of your fingerprint or prints. It stores them on the phone, not in the cloud. That's important to note. And the next time you apply your fingerprint, it compares your fingerprint image to the ones they've got stored in the phone. If it matches, it unlocks.
Now, I've read these articles that it's easy to spoof fingerprint readers. You know, somebody could shake your hand or get it off of a water glass. How realistic is that?
It's not very easy to spoof, and with every generation of fingerprint readers, it gets harder still. So when people are able to spoof fingerprints, what they tend to require is someone very, very compliant. So you have to put your finger into putty, leave it for 5 minutes. If that mold doesn't work, then you have to provide another. So basically, there are lots of easier ways to break into confidential information.
Now, fingerprints are just one form of biometric authentication. There's also things like voice and face and iris. How about those? How do they stack up?
So let's have a look at facial, for example. Works in a similar way. So it takes a reference photo, then compares that image to the one that it may capture upon each usage. Now, when you take a photo, you have certain light conditions. So when you have your reference photo that you are then checking against, you have to have the same conditions. You have to be wearing the same clothes. So if you're wearing a scarf or a hat or different glasses, it may confuse it. So you end up with what are called lots of false negatives.
Now, I had a few years ago a client who worked in the field of authentication, and they talked about factors of authentication. I love that term. Some of those factors are things like something you might know, like a password. There's also factors that you are, like fingerprint or facial. But the third is that a factor is something you have, like a passport. It was explained to me, and they said there was a problem with passports. People, not everybody travels as much as you and I do, and a lot of people, you know, if they lost their passport and they weren't planning on taking a trip, they didn't even know it was gone. And that was apparently in the world of authentication sort of a cardinal sin. And I think that when we look at fingerprint readers on our phones, we're kind of looking at a really great thing because we always know where our phones are. If I leave my phone behind in a taxi, I know instantly that it's missing, and that makes it much more secure. And even if I haven't lost it, the fact that you can do multi-factor authentication and call me up on my phone, they say the fingerprint's good, the transaction's good, but Mr. Stewart, would you mind confirming this? Makes a fingerprint reader on 1 billion smartphones almost the perfect form of authentication in 2017 and beyond.